Cd13 Life Coaching with Talkon. The Sacred Council, 13 out of 32. The guiding force of Talkon. Talkon, the guiding force of audible sound and communication. Realize that everything you hear and say is just an opinion. I am Talkon, keeper of the fifth dimension, representing the world of audible sound, made possible through the energy substance called ether. You know me as the energy of audible sound coming forth from anything that produces sound, from a voice to an engine, TV, computer, radio, and much more. I give you and many other creations the opportunity to communicate verbally through sound. Think about how many animals communicate, the communication through sound, music, and words. Through my energy at the throat center, you have the capacity to verbally communicate with yourself, others, and the world. Share your experiences and express your opinion. I am called the keeper of audible communication. Quote, words mean more than what is set down on paper. It takes the human voice to infuse them with shades of deeper meaning. Maya Angelou. End of quote. To keep things in perspective, I advise you to stay clear and open, and at times you may have to look up to the sky or over the surface of a lake or ocean. By realizing the power of words, you can verbally share your knowledge and opinions in a positive, kind, and gentle way, without pride pointing and without expansion. There are many ways to get information across, but most important is the skill on how are you getting information across. Just as you can speak unclear, confusing, hyper-analytical, invasive, boring, and manipulative, you can also come from compassion, clarity, love, caring, inspiration, and wisdom. I play with all of them, and they all have a great effect in the positive or in a negative way. From a level of consciousness, you can also humbly accept your conditionings, the conditionings of others, their perspective, and listen to them without any judgment. Quote, words do not express thoughts very well. They also become a little different immediately after they are expressed, a little distorted, a little foolish. Hermann Hesse. End of quote. I love to speak different languages. I know hundreds of them, and using my body language, and having become a master in positive and negative ways of communicating. But I am just like you and anything else in creation, a creation of opposites. When you fail to tune into my positive side, and depending from which level of consciousness you come, you easily fall down into verbally miscommunicating with yourself, others, and the world, but worse, expressing your ego and judgment and using harsh and negative words. Quote, give every man thy ear, but few thy voice. William Shakespeare. End of quote. Through my energy, you keep talking about the things in creation, looking for who is right and wrong. I am subject to Kalimobonko, the one with the many faces, and through your conditioned mind, you keep yourself busy talking about the endless things in creation and possibly judging them. Quote, the more one judges, the less one loves. Honoré de Balzac. End of quote. To sum it up, I'm guiding you regards matters of verbal communication and verbal miscommunication, verbalizing and playing the mute, sharing and withholding, speaking politely or screaming and threatening, accepting or judging, the ability to listen or wanting to be heard, open communication or conditioned communication. All is an opinion or my way is the only way. The acceptance of all or playing power games. Having an open ear or closing your ears off. Enjoying the peace and quietness or not able to live without external noise. Realizing that all is a truth or speaking in truths and statements. Using the voice for expressing or using the voice to manipulate. Being composed or raising your voice. Accepting Kandu the creator as the only authority or you wanting to be the authority. Talkon. Knowing me and knowing what to do with me. Let's see how you unnecessarily struggle with my force in various aspects of your life, how you could change your perspective and even make some practical changes. There are endless words that can be connected to any subject, and each subject can have many books because each subject can be approached from various perspectives or angles. Most important, however, is not to forget that all that is said or written is merely an opinion, a truth, and not the truth. Because the spoken and written word is part of the creative world, created in opposites, constantly changing and bound to time, and there is always more, much more than can be said or written about any subject. Regarding me and the Sacred Council members talking about any subject, know that this understanding applies to that information as well. The information is coming from our point of view and brought to you through the world of visionary and mystical fiction. But hopefully it contributes to your life and assists you to experience life in a more conscious, mystical and magical way. By hearing or reading this information, you will come to the conclusion that you know this already, and you do, because this is part of your universal and spiritual inheritance. And often, we just need one word or sentence that inspires and motivates us to do things differently, or to think about a certain subject from a different perspective. Dealing with your real self, the soul. In regards to spiritual living, stay aware that all that is communicated is just an opinion, even spiritual matters. Know that the Creator is in everything and everybody, and that you are talking to Him all day long. Keep Him in mind and keep that in mind. Realize that it is impossible to translate spirituality into words, which are from the realm of mind and matter. Individuals and groups have and are still making war over them. Quote, whoever undertakes to set himself up as the judge in the field of truth and knowledge is shipwrecked by the laughter of the gods. Albert Einstein. End of quote. Keep, however, your ears open for spiritual information and do not judge anything, but prove the matter to yourself. Faith and belief are not words, but spirituality in action. Learn to be more in silence and speak less, for spiritual inner evidence. Things cannot have words, and other things are better left unsaid. Dealing with your mind. In regards to managing and dealing with your mind, know that the mind doesn't want that you connect and communicate with your real self, your soul, but wants you to communicate with the things of the world. Be careful thinking that you speak the truth, for the truth is a scientific experience and words can be interpreted and manipulated unendlessly. So stay alert when you verbally communicate your realizations, truths and visions, thoughts and visions, that they are not the truth, but a truth. When your mind, however, is driven by the sense organs, it does not communicate from a higher and neutral point of view, but has always its judgment ready and at the tip of the tongue, which binds you to the world. Realize that you mostly do not share, do not wait for a question, but impose your realities onto others, and for that reason ending up in argumentations and miscommunication fights, a battle of who is wrong and who is right. There is no need to convince another, because this indicates that you are not convinced yourself, and actually are still trying to convince yourself. When you are convinced, there is no need to convince another person. When your mind is driven by the sense organs, you lose perspective and you use words to gain power. It manipulates and you're not even aware of the consequences. This mostly indicates that you don't like to listen to other people's beliefs and opinions. You forget that everybody is conditioned in a certain way and that all is spoken is just a matter of opinion. Most of you have no patience to just lend an ear and listen to others. You have already the answers and your judgment ready. A more conscious mind knows that life in creation is just a momentary adventure, like being on a stage as an actor, and speaks like an actor, and knows that there is no real truth to all that which is spoken. Here you realize that all what is spoken is just conditioned, and accept that fact, without using this as an excuse. It is only then that you stop using your thumb, expressing your will. Quote, with love and humility, forget each other's apparent mistakes or faults, and make due allowance for differences of opinion. Maharaj Sawan Singh. End of quote. Dealing with your body. In regards to dealing with your physical body, know that it is a composition of all material substances, but the ether substance reveals itself predominantly as your communication that audibly takes place through your vocal cords. Located at your throat center, at the height of your neck area, is an area where imbalances show up when you do not know how to speak up for yourself or communicate incorrectly, by judging, playing authority, raising your voice, screaming, and manipulating with words. It is then and here when you become a pain in the neck to yourself and others. You know when you get into an argument how it affects your entire body, and so does every form of improper communication. Quote, kind words can be short and easy to speak, but their echoes are truly endless. Mother Teresa of Calcutta. End of quote. Dealing with communication. In regards to communication, stay aware that all that is communicated is just an opinion. Quote, everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. Marcus Aurelius. End of quote. Realize that it is not easy to translate your reality and feelings through words. Keep your ears open for other people's opinion and do not judge them. Quote, do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Matthew 7:12. End of quote. Some things cannot have words, and other things are better left unsaid. Learn to speak up for yourself without harming others. What about speaking with words infused with compassion, care, love, understanding, affection, and kindness? Quote, never lose a chance of saying a kind word. William Makepeace Thackeray. End of quote. Dealing with food. In regards to dealing with nutrition, realize that through the power of communication, you judge foods and other ways of eating, and it is through the power of words that you can cut yourself off, or that you cut yourself off from different experiences regarding to nutrition. Whatever you hear or say about nutrition, know that it is not the only one truth, but a truth, an opinion, a preference. Through your voice you share your experiences, but let others decide what to do with the information. It is their adventure of life. When you want to learn more about other ways of eating, you must have an open ear and willing to listen, because you learn more by listening than by talking. Accept your conditioned way of eating and accept that also of others, who are just conditioned as you. And when you like to experience differently, you must be open for new and different, which is often easier said than done. Foods that are consumed need energy to be digested, and for that reason, to eat in silence is much better. And when you want to experience more peace, it is beneficial for your body to go on a simple fast, with just consuming fruits and vegetables for some time. The less hard your body has to work, the more calm it is. So much energy is wasted in talking about who is right and who is wrong, and other energy you lose by trying to digest your life, which is far too fast, you're trying to do too much, and things are becoming too complicated, including what and how you eat and drink. Quote, all our words are but crumbs that fall down from the feast of the mind. Kahlil Gibran. End of quote. Dealing with staying fit. In regards to fitness, it is great to release tension through sound release, for even without knowing, you keep so much inside of you. Visualize some athletes when they release their sound when they hit, jump, kick, or throw something. At the throat center, you can find the vocal cords through which you verbally communicate with yourself, others, and the world. By not knowing how to properly communicate, you get into a lot of stress and frustration. So, gargling, singing, chanting are a great help for this area, and during fitness activities, you can release the frustrations or the tension through sound during the motion, when you need to work the hardest, and when you are exhaling. In general, that is the motion away from the earth gravity. Quote, regard your voice as capital in the bank. Sing on your interest, and your voice will last. Laurits Melchior. End of quote. Dealing with your life partner. In regards to your relationship, be very careful how you speak to each other, because words can be very uplifting, but can also be more painful, even more than a knife. Be open to your partner's opinion, because all that what you say and share are only opinions, and then there is no need to judge them. Listen and observe more, and do not get involved in intellectual debates, which are all just about conceptions and descriptions, and all of them are incomplete. Lend an ear and be thankful and grateful to give advice or your opinion until you are asked, and even then be very careful to express yourself. In general, you are more careful how you say things at work or to others than to your partner. Learn to ask and set time aside to communicate in a constructive way. Quote, when entering into a marriage, one ought to ask oneself, do you believe you are going to enjoy talking with this woman up into your old age? Everything else in marriage is transitory, but most of the time you are together, it will be devoted to conversation. Friedrich Nietzsche. End of quote. Dealing with your children. In regards to parenting, it is very important to expose your children to different schools of positive and reflective communication. And maybe they do not have to repeat the same mostly inadequate ways of communication that came from you. When you are not in a positive position to listen to them, Ask them if you could talk at a later time and possibly set that time. Be careful to also speak to them and make it into a habit to ask first for permission to speak to them as well. You get too easily into the habit to take permission whenever you want to say and whatever you want to say. You don't do this at work, so don't do this to the ones you claim to love. When your children are frustrated and angry, explain them that it is their frustration and anger. Teach them by example not to take it out to anybody or on anybody, but direct them to a pillow and maybe together keep screaming in it. Quote, "We spend the first years of a child's life teaching it to walk and talk, and the rest of its life to shut up and sit down. There is something wrong there." Neil deGrasse Tyson, end of quote. Make your children aware that words are very powerful and that by judging ourselves and others, in general expressed by putting our thumb up or down, we judge, which the Creator wouldn't even do. Be and stay aware not only what you say to them, but also how you say it. You can communicate confusion, authority, fear, unclear, invasive, hyper, sneaky, manipulative, boredom, but also inspirational, loving, compassionate, caring, and kind. Do not forget that physical violence, threatening, and anger never work. Quote, "When angry, count 10 before you speak. If angry, 100. Thomas Jefferson, end of quote. Take your time when your children have something to say to you, and be careful to give them advice on the subject before they ask. Make your children aware that all what is spoken is just a matter of opinion, and when you speak to them, always start with that what you are going to say is your opinion. Give your children real quality time when you need to explain things to them. They do not need a one-minute manager. Make sure that you have several different ways of explaining verbally the information content. Be creative. Quote, "Feelings of worth can flourish only in an atmosphere where individual differences are appreciated, mistakes are tolerated, communication is open, and rules are flexible. The kind of atmosphere that is found in a nurturing family." Virginia Satir, end of quote. Dealing with preserving the planet. In regards to taking care of the planet, reduce the endless noise-producing devices you have created because they all interfere with the harmony of nature. Possibly you are even afraid to have no external noise around you anymore. Quote, "We need to find God, and He cannot be found in the noise and restlessness. God is a friend of silence. See how nature, trees, flowers, grass grow in silence. See the stars, the moon and the sun, how they move in silence. We need silence to be able to touch souls." Mother Teresa, end of quote. Dealing with the teenage years. In regards to the teenage years, either being the parent or the teenager, you don't want to listen and basically rebel. And you either don't want to say anything or you spit things out, not realizing that you are a pain in the neck to yourself and the other. When you do not speak in an appropriate tone of voice, others will have a hard time to cope with it. Plus, they will not be able to listen. Quote, "We often refuse to accept an idea merely because the tone of voice in which it has been expressed is unsympathetic to us." Friedrich Nietzsche, end of quote. Most of you don't know how to properly speak up for yourself and don't want to face certain things and want to break away or to break out. When you are frustrated, realize that it is your frustration and anger. Do not take it out on anybody. Find ways to learn to speak up for yourself in a proper way and be more kind. To find fault in others is easy, but to admit that the fault lays within you, that takes courage. Quote, sometimes I lay awake at night and ask, where have I gone wrong? Then a voice says to me, this is going to take more than one night. Charles M. Schulz. End of quote. Dealing with getting older. In regards to dealing with getting older, the older you become, the more evidence you have that you can speak less and listen more, and mostly nice conversation will come out of it. Quote, for let me tell you that the more the pleasures of the body fade away, the greater to me is the pleasure and charm of a conversation. Plato. End of quote. Watch out to keep an open ear, as you may cause hearing problems to yourself. Realize that all is just a matter of opinion and perspective. The closer you get to the end, the more you possibly want to speak without words, with the Creator inside. Maturing is a present that, when done with wisdom, speaks for itself. Quote, talking comes by nature, silence by wisdom. Proverb. End of quote. Dealing with stress. In regards to dealing with stress, be careful not to speak in a hurry. Also, due to the fact that you may things you didn't want to say. Speaking too fast creates already stress in itself. You can speak with a hyper-invasive, loud and manipulative voice. You can speak words coming from fear or anger, or with an expectation, all possibly adding to your stress. When you are not in the right position or frame of mind to listen, postpone the conversation, otherwise it will cause stress. Quote, the right word may be effective, but no word was ever as effective as a rightly timed pause. Mark Twain. End of quote. Realize that when you smother, manipulate, judge, or overpower someone, that you will have to deal with the reactions. So prevent this in order to prevent stress getting back at you. In most cases, we are all a pain in the neck. Raising one voice and screaming and fighting with words creates stress on the entire body. To keep all said in the right perspective, accept that others come from their limited perspective, and that all is just an opinion or preference. Quote, wise men talk because they have something to say, fools because they have to say something. Plato. End of quote. Dealing with weight. In regards to dealing with weight, realize that weight is connected to many ways of miscommunication with yourself and judging yourself in various ways and areas on the body, or even the entire body. When you speak with ugly words and are very negative, just close your eyes for a moment and feel how this feels and affects you. The content, the tone, and oftentimes an invisible current of negativity affects deeply. You can speak in a boring, complaining, skeptical, and confusing way. You can speak with empty words and just babbling, or you can speak in a compassionate, loving, gentle, and kind way. Every cell and part of your body is a child from your body, family, and you all know what happens in a family when the communication is not right. Realize that you speak with life. The antidote is acceptance, positive communication, and implementing changes, but done with the aim of health and vitality, and not punishment or just for the sake of appearance. Quote, we are formed and molded by our thoughts. Those whose minds are shapely by selfless thoughts give joy when they speak or act. Joy follows them like a shadow that never leaves them. Buddha. End of quote. Speak with positive words in connection to yourself and the world. Give your body a simple fast, not with the aim of starving it, but giving it a break and letting the cleaning mechanism do its job, as it gets the energy free from you not taking complex meals. Communicate with your soul, which likes to adventure life in a healthy and fit body. Communicate also different in your relationship with food. It is the gentleness and love of your words that affects the foods you consume. Practice less speaking and more listening. Quote, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Epictetus. End of quote. Dealing with disease. In regards to dealing with disease, know that when you are confronted with signs, symptoms and/or disease patterns, to not speak with harsh words to the area and discomfort. All living cells are listening to you as their parents. Quote, "Nature has given us 2 ears, 2 eyes, and but 1 tongue, to the end that we should hear and see more than we speak." Socrates. End of quote. When you are confronted with signs, symptoms and/or disease patterns, let's understand that the body part, systems, organs and cells are trying to communicate with you. They are asking for attention and help. Quote, "Solitude is such a potential thing. We hear voices in solitude we never hear in the hurry and turmoil of life. We receive counsel and comforts we get under no other condition." Amelia E. Barr. End of quote. Never forget anymore that your cells are listening. They are going to hear the complaining, the threats, the fears, the anger, the confusion, or the love, compassion, and kindness. Dealing with emotions. In regards to dealing with emotions, know that you talk about emotions as if they were yours. Probably you making them yours, but actually they are individual experiences, which you again connect to people, places, and events. When you connect emotions to people, places, and events, you will be even talking more about them, for you have created an internet through association. The debate to get out of the confusion will almost be impossible, for emotions will be standing in the way. Quote, "A man lives by believing something, not by debating and arguing about many things." Thomas Carlyle. End of quote. In general, you tend to stay more with the less unwanted emotions and negative connections you created, and go to the extent to use improper language towards yourself, others, and connecting emotions, which makes things even worse. You try to talk and forget a practical approach by separating the emotion from the person, place, or event. You forget to possibly just write things down and away from you, or you forget to create a space and distance in order to look at it all differently. The best way is, however, just to feel the emotion, not connecting it, and not even talking about it, and it will pass faster. Quote, "The tongue, like a sharp knife, kills without drawing blood." Buddha. End of quote. When you speak charged with negative emotions, know that very little will come across. So easily you get emotionally involved by listening and without being asked. You give free advice, which the other even didn't ask for. Dealing with business. In regards to dealing with your professional life, realize that modern business life is all connected with mostly noises and communication devices. And these inventions you have created to make your life easier are now your master, and you are their slaves. Most of you cannot do without them, not even for an hour, the radio, the TV, the computer or cell phones, but reduce as much as possible noise. How you verbally communicate with your business is also of importance, for how easy do you use unpleasant words and judge it? Aren't the stress and struggle you encounter not yours? Who asked and wanted to have the business? And you all know that there is a great price to be paid in general. Family life and health suffers. Quote, your mind knows only some things. Your inner voice, your instinct knows everything. If you listen to that, what you know instinctively, it will always lead you down the right path. Henry Winkle, end of quote. Communicating with each other in a business can easily end up in using power and judgment, even when there is a great manager or owner present. In general, you continue your communication wars from your parents' home. Know, however, that the one over you is the authority, and you don't say anything or you rebel. Quote, many can argue, not many converse. Amos Bronson Alcott, end of quote. It is a delicate matter how the boss and the staff speaks with each other, as it affects the entire business. You could also look from another angle, realizing that you spend most of your lifetime in the business and making the time spent there as the classroom for your general life as well. Always ask yourself how you want to be spoken to and work from that level. Quote, constant kindness can accomplish much. As the sun makes ice melt, kindness causes misunderstanding, mistrust, and hostility to evaporate. Albert Schweitzer, end of quote. Dealing with destructive habits. In regards to dealing with destructive habits and addictions, know that all what is said about it is merely an opinion, but use your inner judgment and see how addicted you are. Most of you either deny it or you don't want to talk about it. It is already a destructive habit by itself. Some of you too easily talk about your weakness in regards to your dilemmas, which has as well a negative component within itself. Talking and complaining, but not doing anything about it, is a waste. It is also not about being too hard on yourself, which will bring even more rebellion and defeat. Talk in a gentle way with yourself in order to get some harmony with yourself. It is not a defeat to admit that you are an addict of destructive habits, but a start to do something about it. Quote, people will listen a great deal more patiently while you explain your mistakes than when you explain your successes. Wilbur N. Nesbitt, end of quote. Dealing with studying. In regards to studying, stay aware that all you learn is a truth and not the truth. So when you transmit information, stay aware that all you speak about is just an opinion, and do not try to harm anybody with your information and the way how you say things. There is no need to judge others when they transmit their information. Just have an open ear. Quote, all speech, written or spoken, is a dead language until it finds a willing and prepared hearer. Robert Louis Stevenson, end of quote. Life is not about being smart and having degrees. Life is being all your life in a classroom, and in general, there is little we can be proud of. Real knowledge, which is knowledge about the world beyond mind and matter, cannot be put in words. Dealing with friendships. In regards to friendships, show respect to your friends by lending them an ear when they have to speak and vent. When you are not in the position at that moment, ask them to do this at a later date. Watch out for interrupting, judging, and even giving them advice. In most cases, you all do not need advice, but need to hear yourself, and most likely you can figure it out. When a friend criticizes you, don't take it too serious. Quote, if you hear that someone is speaking ill of you, instead of trying to defend yourself, you should say, he obviously does not know me very well, since there are so many other faults he could have mentioned. Epictetus, end of quote. Stay alert that any friendship can end at any time, so be aware of what you want to share and what you take on as secrets from the other. Realize that you will have great times of great talks, but also that there will be times of miscommunication and lesser great moments. All is just a matter of opinion, and there is no need to judge each other. Don't be a pain in the neck by always just revealing your conditioned truths only. Give your friend the opportunity to reveal his or her conditioned truths as well. Quote, it is well, when judging a friend, to remember that he is judging you with the same godlike and superior impartiality. Arnett Bennett, end of quote. Have a deeper friendship and talk a little deeper than the surface stuff and just babbling about things and not even hearing what you have to say and say to each other. Summary Talkon. Talkon, the guiding force of audible communication. Seldom in silence, afraid of the silence, unable to listen, talking without even listening to yourself, leads to miscommunication and judgment. This, unfortunately, is the reality of your life. I am Talkon, representing the energy of audible communication, the ability of speech. I am here to remind you of the endless audible sound you surround yourself with and guide you to proper and conscious communication. Stay aware of the differences in sharing your opinion or imposing your realities unto others by becoming an authority, or playing power games by raising your voice, screaming, threatening, manipulating with words, speaking in statements, not being able to listen, which inevitably leads to miscommunication and even judgment. Summary. Speak with the understanding that all is spoken is just an opinion. Stop preaching, coming from authority and judging others and the world. Speak up for yourself. This means first asking for permission to speak and then sharing how you feel without pointing at anybody and without any expectations. Speak with respect and stop to speak whatever and whenever you want to speak. Stop giving answers without the other even having asked a question. Speak with kind words and speak in ways you want to be spoken to. Realize that there is a lot of miscommunication and everybody is conditioned differently, and that you do not need to fall down in judgment. Try to communicate in different ways in order to establish a better communication. In order to stay aware that everything you say or hear is just an opinion, prepare yourself for the day of how you are going to approach life, others, and situations. And at the end of the day, write down your changes, how you handled things differently by having been exposed to the information about Talkon. Affirmation. I realize the power of words, verbally share my knowledge and opinions in a positive, kind, and gentle way, without pride, pointing, and without expectation. I humbly accept my conditionings, the conditionings of others, their perspective, and listen to them without any judgment. Petrus.